Well, first of all, good morning to everybody and welcome to Kansas City. I hope it's warmer here than where you came from. That would be a bonus. I want to thank you for joining us in Kansas City to discuss the incredible impact of the gigabit and to start dreaming of ways and thinking of ways that your cities will be able to be transformed using this ultra-fast technology. It's always great when I get to share the stage with my friend Mark Holland, the mayor of KCK. We're not brothers of different mothers, but we are mayors of different cities. Folks sometimes get confused about that, but don't feel bad. We get it a lot. In all seriousness, though, it's a pleasure to welcome you all to the Kansas City region and to open that dialogue, that robust dialogue, with leaders from across the country about the benefits of this tool. And that's what it is. It is a tool. So whether you're already connected to the fiber infrastructure or just beginning negotiations for those connections, hopefully, and I believe that this summit will be worth your time, effort, and energy. The gigabit is helping Kansas City to bridge the digital divide in our community, attract new businesses to our community, and streamline our governmental processes. As a city, we are having that necessary and important conversation that sometimes gets overlooked about digital inclusion and how it transforms our governmental processes. I think you just saw something in the video that would indicate to you the necessity of digital inclusion and digital literacy, and that is only going to increase, as you can probably guess. This event and the conversations that will take place here are action steps that will follow are part of that conversation. The gigabit launched Kansas City into a rather new and uncharted age of innovation. And the best part is that our citizens are becoming more digitally literate. Their heightened expectations will challenge us as a city to continue to adopt new and improved styles of service delivery and streamline our governmental processes. Some of the innovations we've already taken as a city include hiring a social media staff to strengthen our outreach and manage our conversation-driven tools like Twitter and Facebook, deploying a variety of mobile responsive web interfaces and applications to make it easier for people in the city and around the city to conduct more and more of their business with the city online. Business owners can now use an online tool in order to help them navigate the regulations and processes for approval of businesses and other things here in the city. And because of the gigabit, we've emerged as a global leader in the new technology. Just a while back, we were selected by the Republic Center of Digital Government. I'm sorry, I've been fighting this cold for a week now. And we placed second behind LA for digital innovation in the city. When Google first knocked on our door back in about 2010, and when they announced in 2011 that they were actually going to make Kansas City, Kansas, Kansas City, Missouri the first cities to actually have 1 gigabit speed on their broadband, it created a network in the city unlike anything that we had previously seen. We weren't quite sure what to expect, but we decided that because neither of us were quite sure what to expect, that we could be confused together. So we appointed a innovation team with representatives, 5 from each city, to meet and study this process and tool for a year in order to provide us with a playbook about how we could use this new tool to enhance the lives of our citizens and create more jobs and business. We didn't want to let this opportunity pass us by. The side benefit that was unexpected was it created a very new and real sense of collaboration between the 2 Kansas cities that has led to collaboration on other things. So the byproduct of these two cities having Google back in 2011 was that the two cities started to work together very closely, and that collaborative attitude has extended beyond broadband into other public services and things that we both need to do but are better done together. Since Google came in 2011, we've advanced in some ways that we didn't really anticipate. We had young and inspired entrepreneurs rush in and start up a startup village on state line. They came from different places around the country to stay in Startup Village, which is simply a program where people can come to the city, live in the houses there that are connected, and work on their projects, their new business, their ideas, their dreams about their businesses and adventures. That still exists. I remember going there for the first time and meeting a young man who had just graduated high school, who was trying to decide what he was going to do and hadn't yet picked his choice of universities from his rather impressive list of Harvard, Stanford, et cetera, to work in Startup Village on a project. And his mother and father had driven him up from Texas because they weren't quite sure that that's what they thought their little boy ought to do. But they left him there. So it was either as a result of some argument or because they felt more comfortable once they had been there and seen it. I think it was the latter, not the former. And he worked on his project there. I met four 19-year-olds who drove in from Boston to work on a project. And now they've been through one of the accelerators, and they're getting their business off the ground. So a lot of things have happened because of it, and that's one of the great things. We have, families have embraced fiber to the home as a tool to encourage their children, their sons and their daughters, to pursue careers in science and technology. And we've seen that the schools are supporting those efforts with different programming. Nonprofits like Connecting for Good are dedicating themselves to demolishing the digital divide, teaching digital life skill courses, offering the opportunity for learners to purchase refurbished computers for as little as $50, and Wi-Fi deployments in select low-income housing areas. Our car-centric population is beginning to embrace public transportation and supports our starter streetcar line downtown that will connect all the areas from the River Market down to Union Station. All of that can't be attributed directly to Google Fiber. That is the tool that we've used in order to achieve those things, and it's been probably the most important tool, but the thing that's made it all work is the collaborative effort of all the people who've been involved in the process, looking for things that can be done and enhanced by the use of this particular tool. That's the thing we're most proud of, is the fact that all of this is happening through collaboration. And that collaboration, once you get a feel for it and a sense of how it allows you to be more successful, bleeds into other things as well. So the whole area has been much more collaborative than it used to be on a lot of different projects. And it started with our need to collaborate back in 2011. We want to attract the smartest, the most driven people to live in the city. And we want to give them the resources that they need in order to really begin dreaming and talking about the next big ideas that will make Kansas City best and a great place to live and work. We have been blessed to have the Gigabit. It has been something that has spurred a lot of different projects here in town. It is providing us with what I believe will be the biggest opportunity that we have in 2015 to work with Cisco on a project, Smart and Connected Cities, that will be most in the TDD, the Transportation Development District, downtown surrounding the streetcar. This is a framework and a series of pilot projects in our downtown corridor that will create new ways of using smart city services, connectivity to enhance resident engagement in the downtown area, and also to push out information that is necessary to get to the public in as quick and timely a way as possible. Some of the projects we're looking at include environment and infrastructure sensing, interactive kiosks, mobile applications, smart street lighting that will help us use less energy and save more money, and high-definition security cameras and video. This presents a huge challenge for our city, but a tremendous opportunity for the city as well when it comes to speed and connectivity. We're excited about what's ahead. We're excited about the opportunities to collaborate. We're excited about becoming a part of your communities through shared technology, and you to be part of ours through those shared technologies. We're excited about the idea that the only thing that will limit us will be our inability to dream. And so far, we've been dreaming big and I think succeeding big. Welcome to Kansas City. Please spend every dollar that you have. Here we can use it. Enjoy your time in the city and enjoy the people of Kansas City. And now I'll leave it to somebody who can talk, my good friend Mark Holland.
It's a pleasure to be here, and I appreciate the invitation and the opportunity to be here, especially to be here with Mayor James. One of my favorite things is when I'm over here, I'm always introduced to the mayor of Kansas City, Kansas. When I'm in Kansas City, Kansas, I'm just introduced to the mayor of Kansas City. But what's enjoyable about that is people usually look at me and say, "Really, you're the mayor of Kansas City?" And I'm afraid now that over the new year, the Mayor James has grown a goatee. I think the confusion will only get greater.
Seriously?
Yeah. So I'll still refrain from wearing a bow tie so people can tell us apart. That'll be all that's left. So really excited about this summit and about the Gigabit cities. It is an honor to be the first Gigabit city here in the Kansas City region to begin with the rollout of what is going to be a national comprehensive rollout of Gigabit capacity in all of our cities. The challenge we'll have is taking full advantage of it, and I think that's a big part of what this summit is about, is how we tap into that. We already know, I was on the commission when Google first came in 2011, I was a unified government commissioner under Mayor Joe Reardon. And Joe Reardon deserves all the credit in Kansas City, Kansas for helping to negotiate and land Google Fiber as a part of this, worked with Mayor James in that initiative. As a commissioner, I was glad to support that, but really Mayor Reardon had the lead in bringing that to our city. Now he's handed it off to me, and my job, I mean, that was the easy part, right? Was winning the sweepstakes of how many 1,200 cities that were vying for this, and now to put it to use and make sure we leverage it and maximize it is the task that I've inherited. We already know that Gigabit to the home, which is the real innovation, because big businesses have had this capacity for a while. They just have to pay an arm and a leg for it. Fortunately, they have several arms and several legs that they can afford to contribute to the effort. But the major universities, the major corporations have already had this technology. The real innovation is bringing this to the home and bringing it to small businesses to really give everyone that same access. It would be equivalent to offering an interstate system for travel on cars and only allow major corporations to drive on it, and everyone else was required to walk on the dirt trail next to it, right? In fact, if you've been in some third world countries, you will see there often are these superhighways that go down, but the majority of people are walking along the side on a dirt trail. The lack of access to broadband gigabit speeds really is analogous to that you have some who are moving very quickly and doing a lot of things, and the rest of the folks are trying to find a way to cross over it without even getting killed. So having this broadband to the home really brings everyone up to speed and has the capacity to level the playing field for business in ways that we couldn't think of doing in other ways, but certainly efforts that are worth undertaking. Because we know, and I thought the piece we had up here with the woman Peggy, I thought that interview with Peggy was very apropos. She said she used to be able to go and talk to someone in person, and now all job applications are online. And that's true for almost any level of job. If you don't have access to the internet, you're not even able to apply for a job. Access to education, access to healthcare, all of those things are essential. And increasingly, access to government services are applicable online. From the unified government's perspective, we have a couple of interests as an organization to utilizing this technology. One, with our Board of Public Utilities, we have a publicly owned utility. The Board of Public Utilities is moving to smart meters. Smart meters are a great idea if you have the internet backbone to support it. If you don't have the internet backbone to support it, each of these meters becomes an island unto itself. This kind of support allows us to be smarter with our energy efficiency and ultimately allows us to lower rates. We're also interested in this from a perspective of open data. It's one thing to have data, and we have all kinds of data. We just have it locked up in file cabinets on different floors of City Hall. It would be handy if that data were out accessible, and not only for the general public, which is the big push for open data, is for transparency of government, but I just want the second floor and the third floor to talk to each other. And I don't know if that's asking too much. I know that doesn't happen in Kansas City, Missouri, but we have that challenge in Kansas City, Kansas, of just having our own data accessible for our own use to make data-driven decisions on behalf of our citizens. The other thing, and Mayor James mentioned it, was cameras and high definition and the capacity that requires to even utilize that technology. Both Kansas City, Missouri and Kansas City, Kansas are looking into police body cameras. If you look into a police body camera, that sounds like a super easy idea. Just strap a camera on someone and they walk out and do their job. What's left out in the public discussion is the need for the IT backbone to support that technology. Because if it ends up happening like my home computer, and I don't know what your home computer looks like, but every couple of weeks, either my wife, myself, or one of our sons will go in and dump their camera photos onto the computer into a big file called pictures, right? And then you say, hey, do you have a picture from the trip we took to Michigan last summer? Sure I do. It's in the folder called Pictures. And if you'll sit with a good cup of coffee and scroll through it long enough, you'll find it. If you have police camera data that's analogous to that, you don't have police camera data. It has to have a high-speed backbone that allows you to access and network that information, not only to gather it, to sort it, but also to send it out. You don't have that kind of technology with the cameras if you don't have the gigabit backbone. And that's going to be it is a major challenge for many cities that are trying to use that technology, and it's one of the things that we're already ahead of the game in terms of being able to move forward with that. I want to give you a little bit of information, and then I'll close. To give you an idea about Kansas City, Kansas. Kansas City, Kansas is a city of 170,000 people. Kansas City, Kansas, Wyandotte County is a unified government combined in 1997. About 170,000 in the city-county combined. In that city-county, there is no ethnic majority. We're about 40% Anglo, about 25% white, about 28% Latino, and 40% white, 28% black, and 25% Latino, and the remainder being Asian and other. I've never met an other, actually. I've only met people, but apparently you can check other on your box. Kansas City, Kansas also has one of the highest earned wages in the state, but one of the lowest earned incomes. And the reason we have that is because we have some great centers of employment with people who don't live in our city. So we have great jobs in our city at Cerner and KU Med and General Motors, and only a percentage of those folks actually live in our county, so we don't get to turn those dollars over more than once. The economic disparity that we have in our city is dramatic, and even access to any internet. We have about a 25% of our community that has no access to any internet. And one of the reasons we're as excited as we were about Google Fiber coming in is the opportunity to close that digital divide and close it with a bang, if you will, that we have an opportunity to bring folks who have no access to the jobs, the education, the health care, and the governmental services right now, and be able to bring them online so they have all that. The other major issue is we have no print newspaper in Kansas City, Kansas. And no print newspaper means a complete dearth of information getting out to the community. And if you then move to all digital communication, which is what you're left with, and 25% of your people don't have access to the internet, you can do the math, right? You're not reaching your people with the message and with the services that they need to be successful. The demographics of our community make it essential when we have one of the poorest communities in the state of Kansas and in the metropolitan area. To be able to leverage this technology to really grow our community is vital. The last thing I'll close with is just a story about our church. I'm a United Methodist pastor by trade. That's my real job. I've been a United Methodist pastor for 20 years, actually third generation United Methodist pastor. And our church, as part of this with Google Fiber, we were very active in sending out lay teams into the community to turn our fiber hoods green. You know, there's this great contest, of which I was not a huge fan, but it was the rules of the game, right? So we played and won. If we're going to play, we're going to win. We turned every fiber hood in Kansas City, Kansas, with a school or public building green. So every single school would have access to the internet. We missed 5 fiber hoods that were all apartment complexes. They were a solo fiber hood that were apartment complexes with absentee landlords who you couldn't reach. I don't think the FBI could find them. But you have these absentee landlords. And I could preach a sermon about absentee landlords right now and the detriment to our city in housing, commercial, and retail. But I'll spare you that. That's for another time. But my church was very active in it. And another piece we did is we applied for one of the Google Inclusion Grants. And last year we had a Google Inclusion Grant, which we were going out and taking a mobile group of computers, 10 laptop computers, with a bilingual teacher out to different areas, hosting some at our church, but some in other community areas, partnering with Shepherd Center of Kansas City, Kansas, which is a senior outreach group. That effort has brought people an opportunity. We bring people in to teach them about the computer who don't know how to turn it on. I want you to think about that. We have adults in our community who have a laptop in front of them, and they used to just turn them on for them until they realized folks don't know how to turn on the computer. So they just leave them sitting on the desk so you can learn to open it and how to turn it on. What is a browser? That statement seems so foreign in a university setting like this, but is a very common statement in our community. Go to your browser. Show them what that looks like. Very basic education. And the other piece, when you're doing it bilingually, how to convert websites and your browsers into Spanish so that you can actually use them in your native language. The other fascinating part is as people come in to this computer system and they begin learning over the 8 or 10 weeks of the computer class, we've learned about other needs in our community. And this is a great way to learn about the needs in your community. We've learned that we need to accelerate our English as a second language teaching because people who don't speak English are marginalized politically, economically, socially. And if we can offer English as a second language, encouraging them to retain their first language because that's a valuable skill to have both. But to learn the language of the economy here is very important. We've also learned that when you invite people in to offer computer classes, these are folks who don't have a job, who need to learn how to use the computer so they can apply for a job, who don't have any other resources. Some, they're new to the community. They're new immigrants into our community, one of the fastest growing sectors of Kansas City, Kansas. Our school district has 20,000 students in it, and 42% of those students speak Spanish at home. So a very fast-growing segment of our community who are marginalized in so many ways, who come and once they're learning the computer, ask, can you help with my utilities? Can you help with our rent? Do you have a food pantry? So it's not uncommon for people to come in for a computer class and to leave with a bag of groceries from our food pantry because the level of need is so high. If you can bridge that level of digital gap, that's a big gap. That's not a little gap. That's a big gap. If you can bridge that level of digital gap from people who do not have a job and don't know how to turn on a computer and don't have groceries at home, if you can empower that group, you're doing something special in your city. And that's the thing to which we should all aspire, is to be able to reach that level of person who is so far off the interstate and is walking on a trail, they can't even see the interstate from where they're walking. If we can bring that person off the dirt path onto the information superhighway, where they can have access to jobs, opportunities for their families, and an opportunity to make a new life in this country. Because the good news is every new immigrant that moved to this country, when my great-grandparents came, got to use the same roads everybody else did. And if we can put the new immigrant in this community on the same internet superhighway as everyone else, everyone has a path to opportunity. Thank you.
I want to give you a chance to follow up on that a little bit in terms, because the way Google has built out with the fiber hoods, right, instead of that commitment to build in 100%, has raised some controversy. You've addressed it. Do you have any other comments on it? I think we have time for one more question. Do we have time for one more question? One more. And I'd like to follow up on something you guys both talked about. And you basically run an enterprise. Now, most private sector enterprises are moving entirely to the digital platform.
Right.
They're assuming that they don't take paper job applications. But you, as a government, have to serve everybody, so you have to serve those who are on and those who are off.
Exactly.
Just for a minute, talk about how much easier it would be to run government if you could assume that 100% were on. In other words, what is the motive from the government selfish perspective as an enterprise to get everybody on and get everybody digitally literate?
Oh, wow.